everybody. This is Carol Muleta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Welcome to another episode of the Parenting 411 podcast. Today, we're going to have an essential conversation for moms and daughters everywhere. Joining me is Kimberly Yap, a registered nurse, certified professional speaker, and menstrual and hormonal wellness coach with over a decade of experience helping women and girls navigate the complexities of their cycles. Kimberly is passionate about empowering mothers to guide their daughters as they experience menarche, the start of their menstrual cycles. Together, we're going to explore how to frame the menstrual cycle as a well-designed gift, as she says, and understand its impact on overall health and learn practical ways to support our girls through this life-changing transition. This is a conversation full of insights and strategies and heart, because this can be a sensitive issue for our young girls. So why don't we get started? Thank you so much, Kimberly, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm looking forward to really being a part of this conversation, truly.
Yes. And I know that you know a lot about the topic. You are a registered nurse, a healthcare professional. But what I wonder is how you decided to focus on this particular aspect of healthcare.
You know, this stemmed from my own experience and lack of knowledge. I remember there was a time in my life when, even as a registered nurse, I did not know the intricacies of my own cycle. I remember there was a point in time when I lost my cycle as a married woman and I assumed that I was pregnant. Well, what I should have done first, I did last. You know, I wrote home and told my mama that, mama, we're expecting a baby. But by the time I did the pregnancy test, it was negative and I couldn't understand what was happening. If I'm not pregnant, where is my cycle? And I didn't have the answers. So I checked off the boxes. I went to the medical doctor. He says, oh, you're not ovulating. But what does that mean? I'm not ovulating. So he said, I'm going to send you to an OBGYN. I was sent to the OBGYN and he says, you're not having eggs. Now, what does that mean? He said, however, I will give you something to get a period so that you can, have a period. Well, back then we didn't have internet, we didn't have Google.
Right.
And as a good nurse, I do what the doctor says. And so he did give me something, yes, and he gave me medication, which I didn't understand quite what it entails and how it worked. But I was scared, I was scared about the diagnosis of infertility. Fast forward, almost at the age of 50, I discovered that in that season, what I needed was an education. You see, I had just left my country, Guyana, to come to North America. I was in a stress cycle when I lost my period.
Okay.
I did not need the pill. I needed an education.
Wow.
And so this is why my whole passion for educating women. And now that I have a twin daughter myself, for educating moms with twin girls. So that's why I'm just passionate about this particular subject. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So you have twin girls?
Twin girl. One twin girl.
Tween. Oh, okay. I was going to say, I didn't realize you had twins. I have twins too. Okay. I have twin boys, but okay. So you have a tween girl. I understand. And so you said that was a stress cycle. So if you don't mind my asking, how long did that last?
Well, I think what happened, you miss a period and you're like, okay, fine, I'm either pregnant or not. Right. But the thing is, that stress cycle can last depending on the amount of stress that we're going through. When the stress is over, the body says, we can return back to cycle. Okay. In my case, I went off to my medical practitioners, but this was never mentioned to me. That this stress, no one asks the question these days,
Okay.
Are you stressed?
Right. I was just curious about how long that could last. That's very interesting. Very interesting. And so I can't wait to really dive into this because Yes, I certainly had some experiences with my cycle as well. So let's get into it. Why do you describe it, though, as a well-designed gift? Talk about that and why you think it's important for girls to see their cycle in that light.
I kind of smile again when I look at, and even as I hear you say the word gift, because we say, I mean, gift's supposed to be a lovely thing that, someone thought out about and well thought of, and I wasn't expecting it. And what could this be? A moment, some nice little thing that I can treasure, things like that. And I think I really want to, yes, say, give God the glory and point back to God as this designer who created this gift. Now, depending on who we're talking to, when we talk about a gift and the menstrual cycle as a gift, some women would agree and some would beg to disagree. And I know it's unfortunate because of their experiences. And, the truth be told, lots of women are struggling with their menstrual cycles. And unfortunately, if some moms may pass down this negative aspect of the menstrual cycles onto their daughters. But it is a well-designed gift when it is working and in balance, when it's working and it is balanced, right? When we can know that the body is in harmony, it's a beautiful gift to us. However, yeah, it comes with a blueprint, but when there's malformation or malfunctioning, or malformation, that is where we have the problems. And one of the things I like to say is our menstrual cycle, our uterus, our ovaries, it's not an island by itself. It's incorporated into our bodies in a beautiful and connected way. I like to say that we're not Lego people that you can put together and put together in your own fashion, kind of stuff. And even Legos, I know the big blocks that we give the toddlers, okay, we can put them back in. But when we come to those intricate Legos, where you have the blueprint, you have all of the directions and everything else, once you fit it together as per direction, it works. But let just one piece of that goes missing. And you know what? I've noticed I have 3 boys. We could never replicate that intricate piece back again. And all you have is a bag of parts and a bag of pieces, and nobody's interested in putting it back together. One of the things I like about a blueprint and the gifted blueprint that we have, if we follow the blueprint, even if our cycle goes out of sync,
yes,
there is a way for it to come back into sync. There is a way for that to be corrected.
Well, I have to tell you that certainly as a teenager, I would fall into the category of those that did not at all see this thing as a gift. I had terrible cramps, and you could count on it. But in terms of it working properly, it was like clockwork. I don't care what's going on. Every 28 days, I could count on it. And I could also count on those first 3 days being miserable. And usually it was 5 days, maybe 6. And then it was gone. I mean, so it really worked like clockwork. It ran smoothly, but the cramps came along with it, and they appeared like clockwork too. So I was not crazy about it. And my mom, although we talked about it when it happened, I was actually a late bloomer too. I was summer of 8th grade, which was late back then. But it's really late for girls now, I think. I think they start earlier than that. I don't have girls, but I believe I hear about them starting a lot earlier than that. And, and my mother was a registered nurse too. And so she talked with me about it, but she really kind of did not understand why I was just like, those first 3 days, I wanted to lay down. I was miserable. I was taking Pamprin, right? Remember Pamprin? Is that the name of it?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
It was medicine specifically for menstrual cramps.
Cycles. Yeah. Okay.
And she just thought I was being so dramatic. And, you know, but anyway, like you say, when you step back and really think about it, it is, I mean, just like our entire body, it's just this system that God designed so beautifully. And as you said, when we treat it well, or there's no other kind of disorder with it, it's an amazing thing. And that's true with the cycle. And so, of course, as I grew up, I understood more about what it does, what it did for me. So I could look at it as a gift later in life, but I can tell you, I can relate to anybody, the tweens and teens, who might not feel like it's a gift right at that moment, if they haven't experienced that was anything like mine. So you alluded a bit to the key functions that the menstrual cycle performs and the impact that it has on other parts of the body. So break that down and talk about what those functions are and why they are important for overall feminine health.
Beautiful. I think I'm so glad that you mentioned your own experience about the pain,
Hmm.
because one of the things about just reading your body, and that pain was identifying a vital sign to you that somewhere along the line on that blueprint, you know what, something is off. And if
Hmm.
we can just navigate and go deeper into what that meant or what that means beneath the surface, and that's one of the reasons why I like this conversation,
Hmm.
right? What we as moms could do to help our daughters understand, why am I having this pain?
Right.
And so that's key. And so, I mean, so when I talk about the menstrual cycle function, and people kind of think, okay, the only reason why you need to have this menstrual cycle is for babies. Well, you
Okay.
know what? That's key. But one of the things I like to talk about at the menstrual cycle is ovulation. So we don't have a problem talking about heart health. It's on the news. Bone health, it's on the news. Kidney health, it's on the news. But no one talks about ovulation. And I
Mm.
think it's because we think it's just by itself, this uterus and its ovaries, you just need it to make babies.
Hmm.
And today I want to go beyond that. And it's even connected to that master design that we talk about.
Hmm.
So the menstrual cycle, and I think one of the things we're really trying to do in our community is to talk more about ovulation.
Okay.
Ovulation as key, because menstrual cycle comes with its stigmas. No one wants to talk about menstrual cycle, this blood, what's that, kind of stuff. But when we talk ovulation, if
Hmm.
we're not ovulating, that means a part of our body isn't functioning. Just
Hmm.
imagine you're not breathing. Well, guess what? We're going to do something about it. Just
Hmm.
imagine our heart is beating erratically or not
Hmm.
beating at all. We're going to do something about it. Just imagine. And what if our ovulatory system is not working? Many times we don't do much about it. But
Hmm.
what I want to talk about right now, as you've asked me the question, so of what use is ovulation to the rest of my body,
Okay.
right? If it's not an island. And so with ovulation, we have those key hormones, and every woman knows estrogen,
Hmm.
right? And then we also know progesterone, which not so much known, but we know more about estrogen than progesterone because of so many things that we hear about estrogen around our community. But one of the first things I want to talk about when I talk about the menstrual cycle and the other parts of the body, yes, we do need it for making babies. But when we're talking to tweens, that's in the distant future.
Exactly.
That's in the distant future. But what's happening now? What's happening now with our ovulatory function and when this egg is released from, and every month we need that egg releasing from where it is, because it's like a savings bank for many of our organs. The first one I like to talk about is the brains,
Okay.
because we need those hormones. They're connected to our brains. They're connected to our serotonin levels. So we always hear in the mental health community, we talk about SSRIs, which are these drugs that is for depression. But guess what? Serotonin is our happy hormone. And when our estrogen levels are in balance, it kind of helps serotonin to do its thing and to keep us in that happy zone. The
Okay.
next thing about that serotonin hormone as well, it's connected to our sleep hormone. And so this is going to be key for moms to understand when you hear our daughters saying, I can't sleep, I'm having struggle sleeping, or we see them in that mood, they're depressed. And really understanding the cycle and understanding where our daughters are in that cycle and helping them to read where they are in that cycle and to know when our estrogen levels are high. Oh my goodness, I feel on top of the world. I remember my daughter had a volleyball tournament and she came home and she just slumped down in the chair. First time I saw her fatigue. Now it depended on when she was having that volleyball tournament in her cycle. Because if she was having that volleyball tournament right at around ovulation, oh my goodness, estrogen was there and she had as much energy that she needed for that day. But if it's after the period, estrogen levels are much on the lower side. She doesn't have as much energy as she needs, as she would like to, she should have actually at that point. So the brain estrogen is very important for the brain and very important for the moods. We have the mood swings, and you know what? I often see lots of young girls are having diagnoses of mental health. They need to be looked at mental health, but please, we need to look at her menstrual cycle as well. Where is she in her menstrual cycle? What's going on with her menstrual cycle? What's going on with those hormones, that estrogen and progesterone? She's having anxiety issues. Okay, when is she most anxious in her cycle? Right? When is she most depressed in her cycle? And so just for me, even as a mom with a tween, just understanding, okay, you're not creating an argument at this point in time. Because you recognize that, you know where she is in her cycle, right? You know where her mind is. The serotonin levels are a little bit on the lower side. She's not that happy. And so it's key. It's key for our brains. That's one of the first and important parts. And I like to call it our ovulation cycle. Each month a girl ovulates, she is putting savings in her bank account for her health in the future. So whether it be a baby down the line, but she's putting some savings in her brain bank account for her future. The next one I like to talk about is her heart. And one of the reasons why we need a healthy ovulation is because estrogen has an effect on our blood vessels. Now, and it protects our heart health for the future. I recently listened to a mom who was talking about her menstrual cycle issues and the fact that she was hypertensive. If I hear a woman is hypertensive before menopause, I want to know what's happening with her ovulation. I want to know if she's ovulating. I want to know what's happening with her estrogen levels, because that tells me if she has high blood pressure, estrogen helps the blood vessels to dilate. And once they dilate, it means that the heart doesn't have that much work to do to push that blood through, right? Estrogen helps the blood vessels to be flexible. And our girls need that preparation going into, and it's preparation for the future. And so there are many people who are, and this particular woman was on a birth control pill, and she knew when she came off the birth control pill, her blood pressure was rectified. The thing is, when she's on the birth control pill, she was not having her own innate estrogen hormone to help her body naturally. And so that one is it's very key. So we have the brain,
yes,
we have the heart, and then we have our bones. Now, I knew we were told drink milk, drink milk, drink milk.
Yes.
Drink milk is strong. But what we need to talk to our tweens about is that we need to tell them that every time we ovulate, again, remember that savings account? Every time we ovulate, we're putting a savings in an account for strong bones, to help our bones to build our strong bones. So it's not just drinking milk or eating spinach like my daughter, and I know she loves spinach, and spinach is good. Right? But it really helps with and prevents the bone from breaking down. So, and that one is another key one that we need to talk about when the girl and our daughters are ovulating. So another reason for her to ovulate and not to opt out of ovulating. This is key. The next one I like to talk about is our immune system. Who would have thought that ovulating has a connection to our immune system. Now, estrogen helps our immune system fight infections. And there's a reason for that. Because in the whole world of baby making, as the body is preparing for ovulation, the body wants to make sure that we don't have anything on board that is going to impact a potential baby from being healthy. So remember, ovulation, we're creating a new human being.
Right.
Estrogen is there as that guard to make sure nothing is around to impact that. And so look at another picture of design, right? That estrogen would be there to help to really push back any inflammation. Now, when it's out of balance, and we see it often, again, we have the girl who has sinus issues or sinusitis. Let's ask the question, where is the flare-ups of sinusitis happening in her cycle? And so this is one of the reasons I like about just going back to the cycle. For us girls, everything happens along that cycle, right? Where is she experiencing a lot more of her sinus issues? And sometimes the place where she experiences it is just before ovulation.
Okay.
And one of the reasons being is that estrogen helps with the production of histamine. So we all know about histamine because of antihistamines, right? Because of histamine is high, we take an antihistamine. So it's to temper down that histamine. Now, estrogen is one of the hormones responsible for that, because why? It needs to fight against something that's there, that's probably showing up, right? And so this is where estrogen helps to come to strengthen our immune system. We have lots of women, and I know there may be moms here, and so we're taking an antihistamine. But if it's around that ovulation time, and one of the things I talk about in this whole thing is helping girls to recognize their white flow, which I'm not sure if we'll talk about it, but the white flow or the cervical fluid that shows up just before ovulation. Now, with antihistamines, that's right. With antihistamines, when we have our sinus issues, they're supposed to dry up the runny noses or the teary eyes. But guess what? It's going to dry up everything else.
Wow.
And so that is one of the reasons why, and I'm glad moms are listening, and dads, but that's one of the reasons why if women have issues with fertility, and I know we're talking about moms, but this is information from now. If women have problems with fertility, I want to know if they have a sinus issue and they're taking antihistamines. Because that means if they're taking antihistamines in that fertile window, they do not have cervical fluid to take the sperms where it's supposed to go. And so that woman would be called infertile. Let's heal that woman's body up. Let's heal our body up.
I can't believe I have reached this age and learning this in this way. I mean, it's really eye-opening. My goodness. Really eye-opening what you're sharing. And what also came to mind for me was that, because when you talked about that notion of the bank account, right? Yes. So I guess it really does become important to think about how you're helping your daughter manage her cycle as a teen, because it may have consequences later, good or bad consequences later for her health as a woman, and for her. Now we're talking about her efforts to conceive and all of that. So this is very very informative, I tell you. So now, was there another system or something?
I just wanted to talk briefly about the skin, hair, and nails.
Okay, let's go there.
Yeah. Skin, hair, and nails. And that's the whole thing about, listen, we have to have our girls understand the beauty of ovulation and how God is a beautiful creator, because, and we know it as, estrogen helps to keep the skin plump with water and to prevent that dryness. I mean, it's like we know, as women get older, the skin gets drier, the hair gets drier and things like that. And lots of our girls go into this whole skincare thing and skincare routine and whatever, but just having this whole knowledge of what's going on. Okay, when in your cycle is your skin drier or more oily? Just having them to understand that. And so when they go to do their skincare routine, they are aware of what they should be asking for and what they should be doing to do that. Our hair as well, the dry hair and our nails, all impacted by with our menstrual cycle. And of course, we come down to the uterus. So we do hair, nails, and skin. We come down to the uterus, and really having a healthy uterine function is going to be key for regular menstrual cycles. Because if we don't have great balanced hormones, here is where, as we get older, we're having the little things that can, the fibroids, the growths and things like that, the polyps and stuff like that in the uterus. But as I said, and that's one of the reasons why I don't start with them. I know once a girl has her menstrual cycle, the first thing they said, you got to be careful, you're going to have a baby. Yes, let's put it in context that, okay, that's down the line. And let's tell her, listen, your body's not ready for that now. But that doesn't say that ovulation, it's preparing you for adulthood. It's maturing you for adulthood, And so I know it's not looking great right now, but we will work on it. And we can only work on it with the knowledge. And I'm so glad that you're showcasing this here today. Breast health is also important with our girls, and we also need to let them know, because yes, some of them are having a lot more breasts, a lot large size of breasts, and it's because of the estrogen levels that we're having, and they have the painful breast. And then we see them down the line wanting to have breast reduction because the breasts are so large. It really hurts them in their back, right? And so it's going to be key that they understand, okay, what estrogen is doing. And, okay, let's look at some other things. Are you having a bowel movement every day? Those are little key things, because I want to make sure that you're eliminating your excess estrogen, right? We're wanting to make sure that we're having these little practices way now and these discussions way up early, so that we can hopefully prevent some of these things or lessen the effect of some of these things. Yeah.
Wow. This is really a lot. I mean, a lot of valuable information, though, that moms need to share with their children. So how can moms begin to have this conversation? Lots of them, first of all, don't know all of the information you just shared, or certainly not to the depth of what you were able to share. But how do they get started? And what advice do you have for moms who want to create a positive and open dialogue about puberty and menstruation? Because, as you said, it's the tweens and teen years. The hormones and all of that already have them all over the place. And it's also a period of time when they're sorting things out. They're pushing away, but no, they can't really push away because they still need you for things. Yeah. All of that. Now you're going to throw this in. And so how can they have that conversation? Because I can imagine some moms, like if the child is flying off the handle about something or doing something. Okay, when's your cycle? Where are you? You don't want it to be that kind of conversation. Like you're acting like that because you're at this point in your cycle, or you're doing that. You feel like that because it's your cycle. So how are you able to have this conversation and make it a conversation that your daughter is willing to come back to and initiate with you, and not see it as fraught with so much stress and all that?
Yeah. One of the things I really want moms who have young daughters, we need to start having this conversation from JK, SK. And how can we have this conversation? We can have the conversation by just teaching them their vaginal health care. Going to the bathroom, making sure you wipe. And many of us didn't wipe as kids. Where I grew up in the Caribbean, we didn't have newspaper. We didn't have toilet paper for a long time. You were using whatever else. And so you didn't learn these little habits. But having them go through this, because by the time they're in JK and SK, they have to go to the toilet by themselves. They have to wipe themselves after bowel
And so
movement.
you're
And so
talking about kindergarten, junior
yeah,
kindergarten,
junior
and
kindergarten, just
okay,
starting to talk about this routine, And then
sure.
as they go through those age, they're in, I think, primary levels, and they're, okay, make sure you're wiping, make sure you're drying off yourself. And then you know what? They made themselves discover, oh, I'm seeing some stuff on my underwear, what it is. And this
Mm,
is where the adrenal glands has started to kick off. They're beginning to start to see the evidence of estrogen kind of started to rise in their bodies
mm,
in the form of cervical fluid. So it kind
mm,
of show up in the underwear like, oh, I'm seeing something looking like body lotion, or something's looking
mm-hmm,
like flour paste, when you're doing the flour,
mm-hmm,
whatever, or
mm-hmm,
even egg white. I want
mm,
her to be prepared for this, that, you know what, your body is gradually coming. And so we're preparing them for it so it's not a surprise. I
mm-hmm,
remember my daughter having this conversation with one of her schoolmates, and the
mm,
kids did talk in school. And
right.
so, yeah, the friend is older than her, and she says, oh, I'm seeing some white stuff on my underwear. And my daughter was like, oh, that means you're going to have your period soon. And she was like, where did you get that from? She says, oh, my mommy told me. And so, and you know what that girl did? She went and she Googled.
Ah,
She
mm-hmm,
went and she Googled, and we want them to have the information first from us. Because,
sure.
of course, you Google, we will find some other things. And
Mm-hmm,
so, and that's one of the reasons how I want our moms to be able to have the gradual conversation and
mm-hmm,
really talk about our menstrual cycle in the same light as we talk about our heart health, our lungs health,
mm-hmm,
let's have that same conversation around it. So
mm-hmm.
that's some of the ways, and to affirm that, wow, you know what, you're growing up. Yes, she may be a little off in her cycle or in her moods and everything else, but yeah, we just have to reassure them and encourage them along the way. And of course, I mean, be careful how we speak to them,
Mm-hmm.
but just we need to treat it as very normal cycle, as if we're talking about our eye health, ear health, whatever health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our uterus is important as well. Yeah.
Do you want to connect your brand with families worldwide? ProPix by the Parenting 411 is your ticket to success. With over 20,000 followers and a podcast reaching more than 25 countries, we're talking family relationships, mental health, and raising awesome kids. Our past guests include doctors, psychologists, other medical professionals, counselors, New York Times bestsellers, award-winning actors, and others. ProPix amplifies your reach and boosts visibility to engage parents seeking the best for their families. Ready to join the big leagues? Visit ProPix by P411.com and let's take your brand to new heights. ProPix by P411.com. Amplify, boost, and drive your success in the parenting world. And it's great to demystify this. And you mentioned as well, dads need to understand this too. And it's really just this way more complex process that's going on that has so many benefits for women's health. And it would be good. It's definitely good for girls and moms and girls to understand this so that they can have this dialogue. But to some extent, it is good for fathers to understand this because there's kind of this thing where, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but like in the workplace, sometimes if a woman is in a mood or if a woman is being assertive, how about that? They'll say, oh, she's probably on her period. Like it's just, that's just this thing that women do and not really appreciating the purpose of it and all of the benefits of it,
Okay.
aside from the major task of giving life, right? So
That's
this
right.
it really is very important to have this knowledge and for girls to have it so that they can kind of not see it as something that's happening to them or victimizing them. Because I
Yes,
actually
that's true.
definitely felt like oh, here we go again. Up, yep, here it's coming. Okay, I'm not going to make any plans for the next 3 days because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to go to
Mm.
school, come right home, lay down. I'm not going to have any fun because this is happening to me. instead
Yes.
of happening through me and happening
Yes.
for me, right?
Exactly.
So, and I know that you believe it's so important, and I can agree with you that it's really important to know your daughter's unique cycle pattern, and of course, it's important for moms to help their daughters track and understand their cycles. So, how do you guide moms? What do you tell them to do? What kind of tools do you tell them to give their daughters to help them track their cycle and understand their cycle and really just understand that this is a part of their life and God loves them and they are not victims. This is just a very important process that goes on in their lives.
You're right. And so I think it's one of the big things is that moms, as we help our daughters through this, we need to be able to put aside some of the myths that we've been told all the time. Okay, you know what? Yes, there's a myth that you have a cycle, and I talk about your unique menstrual cycle for your daughter for this time. She's gonna grow. She's starting to see her periods at menarche. It will be irregular. Or they say for about 2 to 3 years, maybe irregular. So she may not see it every 28 days. Right. So it may take a little longer. Explain to her why. The follicle is taking a little longer to grow. She may see a little heavier period because guess what? As the follicle takes longer to grow, it means that the grass, let's just say the grass that's growing, it's growing up, it's getting higher. And so by the time it's time to cut the grass, you have more grass to cut. You have more uterine lining to get rid of, if the follicle takes longer to grow. One, help them to know what's normal, what's not. It should be about 3 to 5 days. If it's more than that, listen, moms, you need to know, okay, we need to consider, we're going to talk to our doctors about that. If we're seeing this, for a very long time, we need to help them to know, okay, to learn to track, okay, when you're the first day of your period, up until the last day before your next period, that's your cycle. How many days is that? Is it 4 to 5 days? Is it 60 days? Is it 90 days? That's a concern. And I don't want moms to be sitting down with 90-day periods, right? Well, not blood flow, but cycles, as
I
I
know what you
said.
mean. Yes.
We don't want them to do that, right? One of the things, helping the girl to be able to track that white flow when it shows up, because that's key. One of the reasons why that's nice and key is that if she sees that white flow, she knows that coming on to the end, I'm not wearing a gray sweatpants to school.
Oh, right. Okay.
All right. Just because, you know what? Once that white flow has gone, it meant that ovulation has passed and her period is going to be coming soon. So, and like we have this conversation, my daughter and I, we're not going to be wearing gray sweatpants. You've just told me you've had leg cramps. Mommy, I've had leg cramps. I see a little pimple here or there. Or mommy, I'm like, oh, don't you have any chocolate? Because I have the chocolate cravings. And I'm like saying, okay, we're not wearing light colored clothes, right? Because it's going to be coming soon. And so there are many ways that they can track, we can learn. And I want, when they're their tween ages, we need to have this conversation and get in here. Once they turn teenagers, they don't want to let you see what's happening.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But I want moms to help their daughters because there's a beautiful tool that I created, but in that I want you to know when she's having a normal period or not. When she's having a breakthrough bleeding or not, when she knows the pattern of what a normal period looks like that happens after ovulation. It may start off light and then goes heavy, moderate, light. Or it may start off heavy and go heavy, moderate, and then light. Right? It may have a certain color. But if your shoe's just having, it was just a brown day, that's not a period. And so for those tween years, help her to differentiate what's normal and what's not. Now, she can write it on a calendar if she wants. I know that there are, charting tools out there and apps. Not every kid has an access to that, right?
Yeah.
That's another story. But I mean, there's simple ways. Even if it's, I just had a friend of mine reach out and she says, Kim, I'm more excited in this book that you sent me, that you got me here, than she is. I said, listen, just let her write down or put in her blood flow days. Even if it's just that alone, that's important enough, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, I mean, some of the things that we can do, because we need to help them. These 3 years are going to be crucial. It's going to be crucial as we see them transition from that irregular cycle to that regular cycle. We want to see them transition. If they don't transition, if they're at 3 years in their cycle and they're still irregular, we know that we need to get that looked at. And I know sometimes the answer is, okay, well, I can give you this pill to give you regular cycles, but it just shuts down the ovulation and gives you what we call a withdrawal bleed. It's not a real period, right? But these 3 years, if we can gravitate and grab a hold of this, many women are having issues later in life with their menstrual cycle and ovulation. It started in their teen and tween years. Let's capture this moment.
I think this is just so important because a lot of women that I know will just say, well, that's just the way it is. That's just the way my period is. And they won't even get this looked at. Like I said, for whatever reason, I was like clockwork. Like, as a matter of fact, I know some of the signs that you're describing, some of the things that happen. Like, most notable to me at that time was the pimple, the cramps, but some of the other things like the discharge and all of that, I do know that happened. I do remember that. But because mine was so regular, I just needed the calendar. I just needed the calendar. So I didn't know my body like the way you're describing. I didn't know, but I knew about the whole thing about light clothes and dark clothes because of the calendar. I mean, I could count on it. It did not, and it started that way, and yeah, it pretty much continued that way. So, but what you're sharing is just so essential. I really appreciate it because there's just so much more going on. All I was just thinking about is here it comes and there it goes. And I'll worry about what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to help me have babies later. But yeah, I didn't really think of all of the mechanics, if you will, of what's going on. So I tell you, I can't wait to put this episode out there. I cannot wait to get it out there.
Beautiful. Yeah, we need to capture this moment, and that's one of the reasons why I'm like so gung ho. We need to capture this moment and capture these girls and help them to be some of the truth tellers. Because I just met another woman who said to me, she says to me, my 38-year-old daughter is struggling to have babies now. And in another conversation, she said, but I didn't even know when she was on the birth control pill as a teenager for heavy bleeding. Right.
And I have definitely heard of people saying, yeah, my doctor put me on birth controls because my period was so heavy. Yeah. And now with what I'm learning from you, that stops certain symptoms or relieves you in the moment, but it's really not good for the whole system.
Exactly.
And you think it's the right thing to do because the doctor prescribed it, but they're really just solving a problem, a problem for you, but creating others, it sounds like. Yeah. So what are some everyday habits that, that promote good hormonal balance and just overall wellness that tweens and teens can begin to practice in their lives?
Great. Perfect habits. I like to call these my pillars and my steps. The first thing, she needs to know her cycle. Okay. And this is what we're trying to do. Know your menstrual cycle. Know it beyond just, it's going to take some time, but we want to sow the seed right now. We want to feed her cycle. So food is going to be very important in this particular equation right now. Food, we need to give her a protein for every meal. So protein for breakfast, protein for lunch, protein for dinner. And if we can get it into snacks, we put protein in snacks because proteins are the building block for her hormones.
Okay.
And so if she's having issues with her cycle, let's go back and see what's happening with her protein intake. Good fats. Now, I'm going to be probably get into trouble here, but low fat is not good fat for our children, our daughters. And the thing about it is because of the whole heart health issue, moms and what we got 1% milk in the fridge, but what our daughters need is full fat milk because they need to build their hormones. Their hormones need milk, right? Need fat.
Protein. Okay.
Right? So we have protein and now we have fats. We need good fats, whether it's fats from great fish, fatty fish, and half of them don't like fish, things like that. But guess what? Those fats are going to probably help your period pain. So let's see how much servings of good fats. Now, we don't like sardines. We don't like whatever, but they need good fats. And this is going to be key. We're going to need the complex carbs, not the processed carbs. We want the cookies and the, whatever else, but they're messing up with our ovaries, right? And so here we have the PCOS that we're hearing a lot, or the polycystic ovarian symptom that we're hearing a lot, and it's going right back to our diet. We're seeing there. So one of the things we need her to do, you got to take your fruits and vegetables. Okay, because if you're telling me that you're having lots of period pain, I'm asking you about your magnesium levels. And you got to eat your green leafy vegetables. That's where you get your magnesium from. Yeah, you can get it from some dark chocolate, to which some chocolate can give you some of the magnesium. It may help with your pain and stuff like that. But you need to have your fruits and vegetables in there. You need to have your vitamin C in there, which probably may help you cut down on that bleeding that you're probably having. Get out into the sunshine. You need your vitamin D. Vitamin D is important for those little follicles to grow and so that you can have your period on time. You need your vitamin D. You need to be going to the toilet and have good bowel movements, not one every 4 days. I want you to go every day, because if you're telling me you're having a heavy bleeding, I want to know that, probably that has really had that big buildup of estrogen there. You had your uterine lining so full, and now we're having this big, we need to get rid of our estrogen levels. Go to sleep. 9 to 12 hours of sleep. The teenagers, I'm not sure for the tweens, because we should be getting them into their bed. But as they go to the tweens and the teens, they're not going to sleep until 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. We need them in bed.
Without the phones.
Without the phones and without a night lamp. I had one teenager who was charting with me. She was 16, and and I had a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old charting. The 14-year-old, I saw her fertile window. I saw her that fluid picture, that white flow picture. The 16-year-old, I did not see it. And then I asked her the question, what time do you go to bed? She goes to bed at 2 o'clock. What time do you have breakfast? I don't eat breakfast. I eat lunch. Oh, wow. What are you eating? And so when we looked at the whole picture, we recognized that her vitamin D levels were low. I got her in to see the doctor. Her vitamin D levels were low, right? And so we need to have them sleep. We need to look at their stress levels, get good hobbies, whether it's journaling or whatever else their hobbies could be, exercising. It's going to be key too, because, and we got to watch the exercise, because some of the girls who are very active, their cycles may come later than some. So we have the over-exercisers that's going to impact their cycles. It can delay their cycles. And then we have the under-exercisers, where we put on a lot more of the fat, and it also has an effect on their menstrual cycles. The next one, body care products. These girls at this age, you're talking about Sephora. Oh, yes. Right? They're talking about Sephora and what to put on their skin, what to clean their skin with, and we can dive into that. My daughter, she looks at Sephora, but she goes to the EWG, and the Environmental Working, I think, group, and they have lots of ratings for some of the skincare products. So they've been through all of the skincare products, and they have a rating system for them. So when she's looking for stuff now, and she's 12 years old, she goes to that site to look to see if the product that she's looking for where it fits on there, if it's safer to use.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
So
that's
this one is
good.
going to be key because remember, whatever we spray on our body, those fragrances, they're impacting our estrogen hormones as well. So that one is key as well. Because I know we spray our body sprays and stuff like that, but it sometimes may not be healthy for our tweens as well. So we have to be careful with that. So, I mean, those are some of the things that I thought of that we could, that they can learn to. And moms, we can just put it in a little bit, so that we don't swamp them all at once.
And so, do you have any closing tips for how moms could, really help their daughters navigate the emotional aspects, the ups and downs of this phase, and really build a solid bond with their daughters during this time?
I know. So again, it's the whole clear communication. And and making sure that, I mean, moms may have had a hard time, but if we can double back and check back and say, okay, fine, this is for this, our cycles are here for a reason, they're a blessing for us and things like that. Really be able to have the conversation with them. I don't mind you sharing with me, dear, because if you have pain, you need to tell me you're having a headache or you're having some pain, and we can see how we can navigate where we're at. During times like this, as I said, we want to try to refrain from arguments or escalating arguments. We're aware of where in the cycle she is, and you know what? We can find ways to ask to initiate when we're asking the question, asking those open-ended questions. Because all you're going to have is those one-word answers.
Yeah.
We're not. Okay, how are you feeling? Even going beyond the, okay, you're feeling what way? Give me describe how you're feeling, and helping them to be able to name that emotion. I mean, it's like, and they'll have different times when their emotions are energetic or they're happy, and there's so much more. Naming those words, taking them on trips, as we understand, and I talk about the EWG, that organization. Yeah, take them to the mall and let's do some care, a trip for body care products, right?
Yes.
Or even as we go through the products, the period products and stuff like that, have to talk about those ones, right? Which, listen, my daughter came home and she said to me, Mommy, I heard that there are toxins in some of those pads. And I'm like, no wonder you see that we go looking for a little bit more costly. Many people may not have that choice, but just having this discussion around, because they're talking, right? One, really having them see beyond the blood, right? See beyond that, and see the beauty of the menstrual cycle.
Wow. That's beyond the blood. I gotta write that down. Like, that's definitely an interesting way to look at it. Now, I know that you have the Growing Girls event. Tell me about that.
Okay, so the Growing Girls event actually was started way back. I think my daughter was 8 years old. The vision was already planted there, because I recognize that I have my 8-year-old daughter and starting to see some stuff on her body, the little breast buds, and I was beginning to get worried. Oh my goodness, is she going to be one of the early risers and things like that? And so I started to pen a system where I can talk to my daughter with love. And so what happened is that what started out as a book I think in the midst of COVID, it got shelved for a bit. This year it was like, you know what? She's in this period right now. She hasn't seen her cycle as yet. Let's get started. And so what I wanted to do was to help moms to dig beneath the surface of all that we've just spoken about before, is to be able to give moms and daughters that information in a simple way and a really interactive way, so that they could understand. And some of them were learning alongside of their mothers and learning the system and learning together. And so that was my whole joy about really pulling the whole system together. And then there was a workbook that went with it, which was my tracker. And I love that because one, we enhance our communication. It's educational. It's a great medical record keeping. And I just think it's amazing. Helps them to appreciate their menstrual cycle and to be more aware that it's not just, there's so much more behind it. Help them to track their symptoms, and that's going to be key. a headache at the end of the cycle and a headache somewhere else in the cycle, we need to take care of what's happening. Early detection, because this helps them detecting abnormalities earlier in their daughters. Right? Like your daughter is having a seizure as a girl going through puberty or menarche, pay key to that seizure, right? Because it could be connected to her menstrual cycle, where she's in her cycle. So just all of these little things could be, just key. And so for me, it was just flooding, and I kind of say flooding, just giving these moms this information so that they can help to take their daughters through this event. So it was held in the summer. It was a 3-week event, really broken down into a couple of things, mental health, abnormal situations and normal situations, so that moms could have an idea, just help our daughters to run with that information. And so that was key. That was where that event came about.
Wow. Well, I think it's much needed. It really is, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions about periods, and I think that a lot of us, I'm including myself as well, kind of took the experience just for granted. Oh, well, I heard grandma had a lot of cramps and things too, so mom did too, or so this is why this is happening to me, or they had irregular periods and that's probably why I have. So this is just something that I have to deal with. I think that a lot of women think that way.
Yeah.
And as
right.
you said, it means that something in the system is not operating quite as it should, and you really need to pay attention to it. So I thank you so much for this conversation. How can we follow your work and continue to see what you're doing? I'm sure there will be some listeners that will be interested in the tracker and also the Growing Girls event. If you continue to do that, where can we find all that out?
Okay, so I can be found at kimberlyyap.com. So that's where I'm posted, my website. And I think I'm on YouTube as Kimberly Yap. You can find me on Facebook, Kimberly Yap as well.
And spell that for people.
That's right. Kimberly and Yap. YHAP.
Okay.
The H is silent. Okay, yes.
Okay.
Kimberly without the E and the YHAP. Yes. And you can find me there just really talking a lot about menstrual health and women health, and really empowering our girls and our women.
Well, thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing your immense wisdom here and empowering us with tools to support our daughters, and really tools to help our parents to help their children on this journey. Right. And so, because when we understand and have confidence, we're really giving our daughters a good foundation and helping them to step out into womanhood with real pride and strength. So thank you so much for that. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe to Parenting 411 podcast. And by all means, share this episode. Not only will you be able to hear it on all of your favorite platforms, but you can also view it at YouTube. And I would tell you, she shared so much information that I would go back. I would encourage you to go to YouTube and watch and listen again, so that you make sure you capture all of these nuggets, because it's information you're definitely going to want to share with your daughter to just empower her and prepare her for the road ahead. And to talk about these and other critical parenting topics, join us in the Parenting 411 community. It's a private space where I share engaging content and advance notice of all the programs here at the Parenting 411. All you have to do is visit facebook.com/groups/the Parenting 411 community. And who knows, if Kimberly is up for it, I think I actually want to have a discussion within the group and maybe some Q&A so that we can really dive a little deeper. We got some valuable information here in this episode, but I think it would be just great. I can't believe that there aren't going to be more moms and daughters that have questions and who could really benefit from this information. So I thank you. Thank you. Again, you educated me. I'm long past concern about my menstrual cycle, so to speak. And I didn't have girls, so I didn't have to have these conversations, but it still was very informative for me. Really put some things into perspective about my own body. So I thank you for that. And again, listeners, I can't wait to talk to you again. Until then, remember that it's never too late to be the parent you want to be. Talk to you next time. We bring you this episode for the purpose of information and entertainment only. It is not the intent or purpose of the Parenting 411 podcast or Carol Muleta to provide an exhaustive reference or guide on all aspects of parenting, childcare, and family life. You are strongly encouraged to read all available information, consult medical or other appropriate professionals, and pursue all reasonable means to learn as much as possible about parenting to complement what you gain here, and then tailor the information to meet your individual needs. Yes, parenting is a serious matter, though it is not an exact science. The context and insights offered in this and every episode represent an account of knowledge and personal experiences of the host and any featured guests for the viewers' and listeners' information and consideration. The host and guests do not guarantee to our viewers or listeners any specific parenting outcomes from this episode or taking actions described here.